Why does Greg Roman have a bigger RV?
That's a good question. I think Greg may have like looked at it as a true like we're gonna. Jim looked at it maybe more of a novelty. Greg
Yeah,
said, "Man, I'm going to tour the country with this." But
yeah.
I haven't been in Jim's RV, but I went over to Greg's, and man, that thing is sweet. Like it almost got me to having the RV bug. It is unbelievable.
Welcoming another GM to the show, Joe Hortiz from the Los Angeles Chargers. You wrap the draft up. Do you get a moment to kind of chill and evaluate, or like what is the week or two after like for a GM?
Yeah, I think the first week right after you're certainly excited about the players you added, and then you start thinking about if there's anyone else out there to help improve the roster. So kind of went to work on that and stayed active with it, but kind of had some guys identified, and we were able to get DJ Shark signed yesterday, a couple days ago. So agreed to and finished that up today. So still looking. We're still always looking to improve the depth and stack guys on top of this roster. So doesn't really slow down in that regard, but take a little bit of time. I was able to jump back to the East Coast this weekend to see the fam. They're still out there. Boys are still out in school, and see my wife and kids over the weekend, and then come on back.
That's awesome. I mean, we love the lad pick. Looking at having a young wide receiver in the building, besides obviously having a generationally talented quarterback, what are the keys to onboarding a talented wide receiver? What do you want in that room? How do you build that room out? Do you build different body types? Do you want vets and young guys? How do you look at that mixture?
Yeah, I certainly think if you have a balance of players, obviously you get some vets in there that help the young guys acclimate themselves to the league. And, we got one in Josh here, and then adding DJ helps a little bit. And then, in terms of body types and positions, yeah, in the draft, we were able to get Ladd, and then we took Brendan and Cornelius in the seventh round. So you got some bigger guys, outside guys, but really there's versatility with all three players where you'll see them align out in the slot. So I'd say versatility is the key. In football intelligence, I think all three of those guys have, which at that position is probably an underrated skill set, that goes overlooked a lot. We look at size, speed, playmaking, but those guys can make all those plays and produce because of their intelligence.
Did Ladd have a comp for you that you saw evaluating him? And at what point, talk me through the mechanics of deciding, hey, we got to go up and get him.
Yeah. I don't know. I hate to comp players because you put like
Ceiling or a
a
floor, yeah.
ceiling, but he was one of his versatility jumps off the screen. He plays outside, inside, but his feel and instincts and spatial awareness was great. Reminded me of the way he catches the ball and the way he just finds space and transitions upfield. I think it was my first draft in Baltimore in 1998 when I was there. We drafted Brandon Stokely,
Mm.
and a player that just, I mean, such a friend to a quarterback, just elite route runner and elite hands, who just knew how to get open and get upfield after the catch. But Ladd's more explosive than Brandon in terms of speed and twitch. So, don't want to put that, comparison on. But he has some similarities to his game. Brandon was such a great friend to the quarterback,
Yeah.
the quarterbacks he played with. And so I see Ladd being able to do the same role for us.
Yeah, you come into the draft, people are looking at picks 1 and 2, and they're saying, hey, they need a tackle, they need a wide receiver. I think back to a couple years ago, the parallel with Cincinnati and the way they looked at their draft. A lot of people were like, hey, do you take Jamar Chase, or do you do the safe thing? Do you take a tackle? They take Chase. And a lot of people are like, oh, well, see, that's how you do it. You don't necessarily protect the quarterback first. I just think it's one situation that worked out, and it would have worked out no matter who they drafted. How did you evaluate the sequencing of how you wanted to do this thing, whether it was protect first or give a target?
We went into it obviously knowing that we wanted to add wideouts, we wanted to add offensive linemen, and we stacked our board really the best players available, like just 1 through 200 players really on our board, and try to get them in that in the clumps. But certainly at the top of the draft, it's easy to rank your 1 through probably 50 players, and
Yeah.
as an organization. So that's how we did it. But then you have to think, factor in like, hey, what players are going to be there in the second round? Certainly every year, I think wide receiver, Chris, is going to be a deep, deep, deep draft every year. I really do. It's just the way the game's changed in college. all the 7-on-7 camps that guys are going to in high school. They're just developing. And so you're always going to be able to take shots at wideouts throughout the draft. And but those top tier tackles are hard to come by. So kind of made it an easy pick for us, really.
With these mock drafts, you hear so much. I mean, like everybody was like, "Oh, Joe Alt, he's a Titan." As a GM, you probably read this stuff all the time. You're like, "Well, we might as well not draft." It's like,
Right, right.
but how much of a delta is there generally between within the top 20 players consensus from a media perspective and the people in buildings, and how much of it do you actually get to hear
Yeah.
beforehand?
I think a lot of if you look at a lot of teams' draft boards, I would bet 25 guys at the top of their board are gone in the
Yeah,
first round after the first round's over. There's some variance,
yeah,
but we have so much more exposure to players nowadays, and so you just the Senior Bowl, the combine, but just all the social media and the exposure on you know on TV,
yeah.
college games, where everyone's seeing these players, and so there's not as many secrets at the top of the draft anymore. It's just what you value as an organization.
Do you feel like the combine's changed a lot? I mean, obviously it's changed since the inception, like hearing about what it used to be. But from say when I was a rookie or coming into my rookie year, 07, 08, to now with the player participation, with some of maybe the new wrinkles and the testing, like what do you think has changed the most?
It's funny because I was a little worried that the player participation would drop off, and I really don't feel like it has at all. I think being
Yeah,
on TV creates that competitive environment. I think it's a great atmosphere for the players to go out and compete. And heck, I remember I was a group leader. I think it was in 2000, 2001 somewhere, and we had 13 running backs in our group, and I think 4 or 5 of them ran, and it was a struggle to get them to go. And now I think it's the opposite. So certainly seeing more players compete at the combine, I love it. I think the scouts and coaches love it. We love seeing it. Certainly, it's great for TV, and they just I think the way they've evolved, Jeff Foster and those guys have done a great job, just kind of getting the players to us, and also lessening the load. Back when you went to the combine, there's one more day now, so you get a little more rest, just a little bit more, just so you can be a little bit better physically to perform on the workout
yeah.
day.
It, you guys, and I feel like I've heard you say this, 4 through 7, and I've heard a few people say this, but like the middle late rounds in the draft, that's when you really get the differentiation, in what the final product is of that draft class. And what do you look for in those rounds? Like, I'm sure everybody has a different mantra when it comes to drafting after 3. What's your kind of way of doing things, your MO?
Yeah, I think from the players' perspective, when you look at the players, you're looking for those high level competitors, guys that are going to, hit their ceilings. And you can always try to place a ceiling on a player, what you think of him as an evaluator, but you want guys that are going to get to their ceiling and reach it, and maybe even blow through it. And that's on how they're made up, right? That's their approach to the game, their passion for it. So the more guys you can take that love the game, the better off you are, and then certainly the talent. But coach's conviction, scouts' conviction, that weighs heavily in how I stack the players for our team. And so we want to try draft players that the coaches and scouts together like.
Who do you think is the most important guy to talk to when it comes to trying to figure out who a player is? If you took the head coach out of it in college, I mean, you took away a position coach, you took away a head coach. Is there somebody that you're like, I go to this person first?
Yeah. I think that probably varies based on schools you're at. Some schools it may be a trainer, a head trainer, could be the equipment guy. If you take coaches out of it, it could be the director of football ops, could be the SID. Different schools have really good resources, academic advisors. Some of them know the players really well, team chaplains. What you do is you try to go into a school and find who your most trusted source is that knows the players well, and they're the ones you talk to, but you try to talk to multiple sources for sure. Coordinators and position coaches are great. They're with them every day. They're the best ones to talk to. But GAs are great to catch. Sometimes you find a good GA on campus, you
Mm-hmm.
can get a lot of information out of them.
Yeah, how you treat the GA.
Yeah.
And I also would throw strength coaches. I know you probably omitted that because of the coach title, but strength coaches, I feel like they know you spend more time with that guy than you do your head coach for sure.
100%, 100%. Strength coaches are huge. Yeah, I mean, if we can count them, even other
He
coaches,
might be, yeah.
they're great because they see, like you just said, they're the players are with the strength coach more than anyone else in the organization.
Yeah.
All year round. So they really see them put forth the effort from when in the off season begins all the way through the summer into the season.
I looked at your draft class and I'm seeing, okay, I'm looking at Georgia, Michigan, Bama, Notre Dame. I'll leave Maryland out because I hate that school, but USC. These are all big programs. A lot of these programs, and I wonder, is that intentional? I know the 2 Michigan picks. You got a loophole there where you're like, I can talk to the head coach from school, and he's the one making the pick, which is probably great. But also, like, I see these big time programs, and I wonder if there's something intentional about that. Like the atmosphere there, the commitment to greatness at an SEC school. Does that add value for you?
Yeah, I think it's the types of players those schools develop. I mean,
Yeah,
I've covered the Southeast since 2003 when I went down there in Baltimore, and always have been in the Southeast, but certainly
yeah.
know Notre Dame and USC and Michigan really well. And yeah, they're just programs that do things the right way. They're highly competitive. They go after top level players and top level people, and so that's what you're looking for. That's what you're looking for to add to our team.
Yeah, no question. And touching on the Harbaugh thing, I mean, you've worked with his brother. I mean, I used to in the NFC West, those bloodbaths with San Francisco. It used to be us and our D line and all those guys up front, and that team had the personality of Jim. And it's a very different edge that he has. And I wonder, having worked with John, like, what is the difference in their personalities? They're different, but I'm sure there's a lot of overlap.
There is a lot of overlap. They do have some differences in their personalities, but the one thing they both have is that competitive fire, desire to be great, but not themselves, like the team be great. And there's a high team focus. I call it, we call it, just like it's all about the team. You've heard Jim say it, you've heard John say it, the team, and that's true. That rings true here. And it rang true in Baltimore. So, you put the team first, and everyone works to get better every single day. But both, I mean, I'm really blessed to have spent 16 years with John and then come in here with Jim. It's awesome for me as an individual.
Why does Greg Roman have a bigger RV?
That's a good question. I think Greg may have like looked at it as a true, like, Jim looked at it maybe more of a novelty. Greg
Yeah.
said, "Man, I'm going to tour the country with this." But
Yeah.
I haven't been in Jim's RV, but I went over to Greg's, and man, that thing is sweet. Like it almost got me to having the RV bug. It is
All right.
unbelievable.
If you could live by the beach, I
Yeah.
don't know why you wouldn't. I don't care if it's on 4 wheels or what. I mean, I saw his setup. I was kind of wondering, is he having problems down at in their neighborhood with people? They kind of dox their location.
Yeah.
Like they did a drone shot of that RV park, and I'm like, well, I could find it.
Yeah.
Like, are people knocking on their doors?
Well, the good thing is I think Jim has since moved.
Okay.
He's got his house somewhere. I'm not going to
I'm
reveal
sorry to hear
where.
that, Jim.
But
That sucks.
I'm not sure if Greg's still in the RV or not. But
Hmm.
I think Greg's getting ready to move, so he might be getting a few visitors. The day I was there, someone brought over a meal for him, so it was great.
That's awesome. With Greg, and I had a lot of respect for Greg because obviously he was in San Francisco and we had our battles, but like his years in Baltimore, your impressions of him schematically and how much can he adapt to the modern game and how, I mean, like a lot of people would ask it this way. I think it's not a rhetorical question, but is it possible for somebody who's got, run first mentality to get the most out of a quarterback?
Oh yeah, I think so. I think you watch what he did. I mean, he got a lot out of Lamar in
Yeah.
Baltimore, and Lamar really developed in that offense, and he adjusted the offense as Lamar grew.
Yeah.
Here, obviously, Justin is a very advanced passer, so it's going to create some opportunities for us in the passing game. But the run game that Greg puts out there, man, is elite. It really is special. The way he can attack every defense he goes against, and really just be creative and come up with new ideas. I watched it for so long in Baltimore. I saw it when he was in San Francisco. But really just looking forward to seeing what he does here with Justin and then just building up the run game here.
With Justin, what is it that he has to do to take that next step? I lean the context around him has to change, and that's why you're here and why Jim's there as well. But you've had a close look at it. what do you think is the thing that needs to happen around him or with him to take that next step and be looked at as what he is, which is he's special.
Oh, he is special. There's no doubt. You watch him throw out here at practice, move around, just everything about him. Like he's so much bigger than you even realize when you get out here. And then just to watch his athleticism for a guy his size, and then the arm talent is special. And that's our goal. That's what we came in here to do. What does Justin have to do? Justin has to just keep working and getting better and develop. And our job is to build as much talent around him and help him not to feel like he's got to do it all. And how does Justin get better? You improve the defense, you improve the run game, you improve the pass protection, and you let him do his thing. So that's what we're trying to do.
Well, you talked about ceiling earlier with draft picks, and I think it's just a really interesting conversation that people don't have enough when it comes to evaluating somebody's career or a chapter of their career, where they were drafted, that sort of thing. Like, there's a lot of places that you say, hey, man, if that guy was in a better organization, he'd be a lot better off, and we get to see that ceiling. Do you see that as a GM, not with your group because you're aiming to give the best context around the player possible, but when you look around the league, can you think of guys that you're like, man, he was in a bad situation, he kind of got a bad rap, that kind of thing?
Yeah, there's certainly players that get drafted maybe into the wrong scheme, or maybe the circumstances around their career or their personal situation maybe holds them back. But I think if you just provide the players with the resources and the support, coaching on and off the field, and really just encourage them and push them and challenge them to get to that ceiling, plenty of guys are going to blow by it. I really do believe that. I've seen it in my first 26 years in this league. You take a guy in the 5th, 6th round, and he's a starter in year 2, and he's never looking back. And next thing you know, he's going to a Pro Bowl. And it's just so where they get drafted. I tell players when we draft them, or even before the draft, listen, don't pay attention to where you're picked.
Right.
It really doesn't matter, man. They don't put your round or your signing bonus on the back of your jersey. They put a number and a name, and the rest is up to you. So we want guys that are going to take their opportunities and then drive forward.
Well, especially at your last stop, like the continuity so rare in the NFL, and for a GM and a head coach to be in lockstep for so long, and the group, I mean, even through changing of the guard and the personnel side of things in Baltimore, I just feel like it works seamlessly. Looking back at your Baltimore chapter, I always ask GMs this: is there one guy that you're like, that's the one that got away, like Sean Payton's Patrick Mahomes, or or is there one guy you'd like to have another shot at, that kind of thing, where you're like, man, I wish I had just moved up, like almost an inside joke in your building?
No, I think the one thing I'll say that Ozzie did and now Eric does is just they work the draft, and they know the draft, and let the players come to you. There's a time and a place to trade up for players, and I've witnessed them do it, but they do a really good job of just letting the board come to them, being prepared to make the pick. And, the draft is the draft. There's going to be every year players are going to get taken from you.
Right.
It's just some go right before you get picked, some go, 10, 15 picks before that you're hoping to get there. But there's been a couple guys that I'd hope that would fall to us in Baltimore, but, nobody you regret, because that's just the draft.
Well, because you're Baltimore, man. You guys got a lot of good players. It's like, well, yeah, that helps. Well, so, all right, the cap side of it. Before we wrap here, like, how do you attack the cap with this particular organization? How do you guys clean that up? Like, when you walk in day one, what's the first thing you look at? Like, do you look at the fat you can trim first? Do you look at the big contracts, or you kind of dig in the couch cushions for change? Like, what do you do?
A little bit. When we came in here, there was a big hole in the cap, or an overage. So we had to do a lot of work, and certainly there were 4 big contracts, and we had to get to work on them. And you need both sides to be agreeable to get to work on it, And so just kind of work through that process leading up through the combine and towards the start of free agency. And we knew there was going to be some tough decisions we were going to have to make, but you had to get under the cap, and then you had to get clear of some room so you could actually get engaged and involved in free agency, and then have the money to sign your rookie pool, and then have that overage for during the season, injured reserve, and mid-season trades or signings. So we just kind of a methodical approach and worked with all the agents, and appreciative of the agents, because they understood the situation we were in, and and we were able to get through it and create some room for ourselves, and also feel like we were able to add some guys that can really help us in free agency.
Is it hard to be the one that has to come in and be like, hey, Keenan Allen, time's up here. A lot of respect for you, but this is a new regime, and maybe it's the best thing for you and the team. Like, is that the hardest job when it comes to like, you just it's good news. You just got a big job, but now you got to walk in and deal with this sort of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a tough thing. I think anytime you have to make a hard decision regarding a player, whether keeping them, trading them, cutting them, it's a challenge. I've cut plenty of players over the years, and it's never easy. Trading a player like Keenan is a tough decision, and but one you don't make blindly. You work through everything and all the options, and then you just make the best decision for the team and go on.
Yeah, it helps to have a grim reaper like Joe Douglas in Baltimore, though. Joe was
Yeah.
the guy that came for the iPads. He told me, and the playbooks back in the day.
On the original Hard Knocks, he was the
Mm-hmm.
he was the one knocking on the doors. We've all done it. I did it before him, and I was so thankful when in
He passed the
2000,
torch.
yeah, Joe was there to do it. He got a lot of camera time, man.
He did.
I thought they'd go back to that when they did the Jets this year. I thought they'd
Yeah.
show flashbacks, missed
Yeah.
opportunity.
Major missed opportunity. The guy is so good on camera, in my personal opinion. We were just talking about wide receivers. My last question for you is Quentin Johnston. I've been there, I've been a high pick when, the pressure's on. The first year and a half of my career, like, it was slow coming. And, I look at somebody like that and I'm like, yeah, he can catch on. He wants to catch on. You can tell he seems like a great kid. Like, how do you walk the line between putting pressure on a guy, being aware of the circumstance, but also just trying to get him to relax and play free? When you're a new regime coming in, there's always the question, am I not one of your guys? Do you see something in me? What do you see when you see Quentin?
Yeah, well, all our guys know they're our guys. Like they're
Yeah.
all our guys. And
Yeah.
that's the way Jim is. That's the way I am. You're a Charger, and
Yeah.
we're going to pour it all into him and everyone else. And the one thing I could see out here on the field, is he's out there working every day, and he's
Yeah.
committed to it, and certainly super talented. I mean, we watch a guy that big, watch him sink, drop his weight, get in and out of breaks. It's all there for him, and it's just gaining confidence, gaining comfortability in the scheme, and the transition. Some guy, not everyone develops at the same pace,
Yeah.
but you have the work ethic, you have the drive, you have the ability. He's going to develop, and you saw flashes of it last year, like you do with a lot of rookie receivers. You see some great plays, and then you see some off days or some bad plays, and that happens. And it's just about moving past it each game, every play on to the next play, like and
Yeah.
and so I think he's going to do it. I really do. Watching him out here working, I'm really excited for what this year is going to bring for him.
Well, great. Joe, congrats on the new gig. We're
Appreciate it.
looking forward to pulling for the Chargers, man. I need some. I always watch the late games, and the Chargers are always in the 4 o'clock games. I need some big Chargers wins, man. I'm always pulling for you guys. So hope we get you back after one of those, and tell Coach Harbaugh we said hello.
Absolutely. Appreciate you guys having me on.